Okay, hit it, Carlos.
Okay. Bear Creek Water Treatment Plant, 4930 Gray Road, Douglasville, Georgia. Quote to cash number 2674-3283-193. Dear Sirs, Square D Schneider Electric Field Service has agreed to provide training services to you. You have requested the right to videotape our presentation. We hereby grant permission for such videotaping solely for internal use by you. The videotape is not intended to serve as standalone training and is restricted to use by those that attended the original training session. All copyrights in such videotape shall belong to Schneider Electric, and you hereby assign all rights, title, and interest you may have in any intellectual property rights in such tape to Schneider Electric. You agree to place the following legend on the tape's label. 2011 Schneider Electric, all rights reserved. No further distribution or more than one backup copy may be made of this videotape without the written permission of Schneider Electric. Although due diligence and reasonable care has been taken to provide accurate and authoritative information about our products/services during the class that was videotaped and in the training manual, as well as other documentation provided in connection with the subject training program, the user remains solely responsible for all consequences arising out of its use. This information is believed to be accurate and current as of the date of training. It is the user's responsibility to periodically check with Square D/Schneider Electric headquarters at 1415 South Roselle Road, Palatine, Illinois 60067 for any updates reflecting introductions, changes, or obsolescence of products and/or related functions. Competent professional advice or other expert's assistance should always be obtained with respect to specific applications. It is the user's responsibility to ensure that the information in this documentation is appropriate for a particular application. This videotaping of the class and the training manual is a copyrighted publication of Square D/Schneider Electric and is intended for use exclusively by and for the benefit of authorized trainees. Reproduction of the contents of this copyrighted publication in whole or in part without written permission of Square D is prohibited. Any reproduction of this videotape or manual in part or in whole, including pages or portions of pages, copying, duplication in any form, physical or electronic, or distribution to any third party is expressly prohibited without prior written consent of Square D/Schneider Electric. You agree not to distribute or show such tape to any third party. You further agree that Schneider Electric shall have no responsibility or liability whatsoever for any use made by you of such videotape. You specifically waive all claims against Schneider Electric for the adequacy or accuracy of the information conveyed in the videotape and for responsibility for choice of the application of such videotape and the information contained in the videotape. Acknowledged and agreed on this 17th day of August 2011 by Schott Construction, Seth Ellington, Project Manager. Thank you. That's a mouthful, that's right. All right, gentlemen. And what we'll do is just a real quick review, and I was telling him to go ahead and do this. I'm just going to run those videos real quick here, just for the sake of them being on for the record here. And let's. Yeah, so he didn't come, doesn't even, well, I think we'll talk about the real quick afterwards. We were noticing it is that you notice how the pants, after it kept smaller and it actually got bigger, the smoke and everything else, the mount is let's do that one right there. Once again, what we were pointing out here was the actual hole, the damage caused, the potential that was there. What you're seeing is the damage after the fact. Here's the guy with the actual PPE suit and everything else that's alive because he wore it. Where he was at from the looks of that, like I said, nobody ever told us what happened. But I'm making an assumption because the grounds were there, and that was on that bottom side that you saw there. So apparently the grounds were that were installed from the back side, unless they did it on the front side and actually grounded the line side to the actual bus in that compartment there. But from the looks of it, just by going backwards a little bit here, yeah, that's actually in the cell there. But I don't know what they did, because that actually is more the bus compartment. Well, the bus compartment is right about here, and this is actually the breaker compartment. So they might have, in the breaker compartment itself, where they pulled the breaker out, they grounded the lines in there. And for whatever reason, I guess it might have been an empty cell or something. I'm only guessing or speculating. But what I'm thinking is that he was actually on this side somewhere here, unless he was in front of it and this thing blew open or something like that or the other, and that fault caught there and it caught his whole face up at the front and everything. But that's supposed to be a divider in the middle here that separates both cells, because you'll have a breaker at the top and a breaker at the bottom. And I can't see that flash would go through there and get him there. If anything else, it was all here, and I'm thinking more than anything else that he might have been kneeling down, which kind of explains when you notice this next picture. You see this, he's wearing PPE, fire retardant clothing underneath here as well. He might have been kneeling down, and that's where this was kind of how this actually crinkled up or something like that or the other, and caught just that right side right there. So he might have been hiding behind the door there getting ready, or whether he did, I don't know exactly what. See, now this is what I wanted to see. Why didn't they show down here what they showed as far as the blast in there? It looks like you can see how this is right in here, it spells. You can see the black parts here, so like it kind of flashed from the bottom up. So I can't see that it did that. But one thing that you can see is, notice the curvature of the door. So that impact pushed that door back, even though the blast might occur like even down here or whatever it is, but there was enough to cause this thing to bow out. It's pretty powerful. Okay. And then this, did y'all see this one?
Yeah.
The runaway CT?
Yeah, we saw it.
Okay.
That's about time we left.
Okay. Yeah, because we were talking about CTs, we were talking about as far as making sure the terminations were tight and stuff, and loose wires when we do our PM and everything. So I'll just kind of review that real quick and everything again on that. Like I said, I wish I could have gotten that clearer picture, but one of these, like I said, it was only one strand or so that was, and it was already burnt orange, so it was already brittle. It was just a matter of time before this thing actually would, and you can see how it's already leaning forward and get ready to fall. And it could have slipped off of there at any given time as well. Vibration without that could have caused it. Either way you look at it, it was just what I call a bloody mess, if it is. And it did look like I said, blood on there. It was just amazing. But when you look at the way everything's installed in there, also it's kind of not a very good installation originally from the contractors and stuff like that. And those are the things that you kind of have to be looking out for and stuff. And then we do have another one. I don't know, did we see the one with the switch being open under load?
No.
That's what happens under a load. So if you open a breaker or you close a breaker that could have a fault, that's the kind of potential that we're talking about. I mean, that's a switch out in the switch or being open, and it's trying to still get across because of the potential. So that arc continues to go that high. It's a continuation. So it's hot on one side and it's isolated on the other, but that arc continues to try to get there. That's why I was showing you that, so you'll be able to see. That's amazing.
Are the switches actually pulling apart there?
The switch is actually like coming loose. It kind of gets popped open. So it's as long as it's getting popped open, it is until that arc has got to dispel itself. Because it still keeps trying. But when it no longer has that load there, then it has to break loose, and the energy finally subsides. But it'll try like the dickens to get across there, and that's the whole deal. When you open something under load, that's the important thing, and that we're going to cover that as far as when the a breaker trips or something like that, that you have to troubleshoot and find out, and not try to close in on it because of that fault and stuff like that. And then you haven't seen this one. This is also a transformer that blows up or starts to fault, which here's the electricity and everything else. That's faulting. Explodes. Yeah. But that's again the potential of that energy there to fault. So it starts to fault, you're going to create a fault like that, and the next thing you know, it'll get hot enough and everything else, it'll start to burn. I mean, and burns metal through and everything else, and heat up the oil or whatever it is in there, and then, you know, listen to the people. Something that you wouldn't expect. Those are the dangers that stressed yesterday, continue to stress today and everything else. That potential is in any of this equipment, and don't want you to take it lightly that you know, you think it's not going to happen or something like the other. We want to make sure that you understand what's going on in there. These are the components within here, and the design of them, and of course it's everything is labeled here, and that's in that book and everything else. Okay. And I want to downplay it, but you guys really shouldn't have any or be going into this as far as you know, you're not really going to ever troubleshoot that far into it, are you? That you can see yourself getting into it and everything like that. But I do want you to make you aware that this is the low voltage compartment is up here, and that can be accessed when the equipment is running. Okay. It's this bottom part that cannot be accessed when it's running or in the on position. It's got and I don't call it a fail-safe, but it's got an interlock that prevents you from opening this bottom door, latch door, when the switch is in the on position. So, as anything, or like anything that has interlocks can be defeated. And you can actually open this in the off position, then make it or fool it to where it's got like it has the interlock, and then close it. I don't recommend you doing that. You're trying to troubleshoot and find out why something doesn't close, because you can actually pull this contactor out of there and troubleshoot the contactor out of the cell itself. And the thing that we have to remember is you can troubleshoot this by just having control power to the system and have it disconnected completely, isolated and stuff like that.
Is this like a bucket that you can unlock and pull out of the bus bars?
Not a bucket per se. This is on the your medium voltage, okay?
Okay.
But it is a little trolley, yes. And what it does, it actually this is the actual contactors on this, and so it's a medium voltage, like it says. It's a medium voltage non-reversing controller or contactor, because I've got another picture to show this really good. This shows it like this and illustrating it, and it's telling you, for example, like right here, it's saying this is the isolating means is right in here in H, and that's what IM stands for, isolating means. G is the main bus, and you can see those three phases right there where it comes in, and it ties into the other section, so it could be a standalone. Excuse me. Or you can have more than one of these switches in there. So you have a common to that coming in, you know, ties into them. But when you isolate it, then the switch or this isolating means, and of course the isolating means is a no-load interrupter, meaning that you have to kill your load downstream before you open this up. Because essentially, what we're looking at again is, think about that switch that you saw in the switch yard, when you're opening it under a load. So you have a load downstream, that kind of damage could occur in there and everything else, even though it's supposed to be, excuse me, in a vacuum or whatever as far as that isolating mean. But still, the fact of it remains that, you know, it's under load. So your equipment life is not going to be that high when you have that kind of arcing going across and everything. So you always want to minimize. So if you have no load, then when you open it, there should be no arc at all, essentially, or minimized arc altogether. And all it does is it's identifying as far as where the fuses are at. The medium voltage fuses, which is I, is right here. Then the current transformers, the control power transformers, where it's J, the CPTs, the CTs, and everything are all down in here. See, D says this is the contactor itself. And of course, this is the door itself, that the medium voltage compartment door, and that's what it's pointing up to. C right here. I've got color pictures here on another presentation that's fine. I'll show you here real quick. That and that's mainly what you just, so you can know and understand what's going on in here. And then B is the actual operator panel itself, and I have another slides that I'll show you here. Remember, once again, the danger tags. The bottom line on this, and like I said, no pun intended, failure to follow these instructions will, and there's the word right there, will result. It doesn't say may or can, it says it will, it could, I mean, it will result in death. And PPE. You should have PPE, and as far as having one suit for 4 or 5 people, you have a person that weighs 135 pounds and you have a person that weighs 250 pounds. There's no way that person, if they get the suit for the 135 pound individuals, that 235 individuals are going to be able to get in that 135 suit. Vice versa. You get a 235 suit, which could be an extra, extra large, and this dude's wears a small, he's going to be tripping himself, and it actually, and it's a known fact that ill-fitted PPE is as bad, if not worse, than no PPE at all. So it's like a tool being misused. Using a hammer, or excuse me, side cutters as a hammer, or a screwdriver as a chisel. And those weren't the tools that were meant for that, because the chisel is a hardened steel. Screwdriver is not. It's a little bit softer, even though it's still hard. But it's softer because sometimes the tips will, instead of breaking, they'll bend and stuff like that, well, depending on how cheap the head is also. But using the proper tool, bottom line, you cannot be using, you know, improper fitting PPE, period. Or PPE that is old, rotted, or stuff like that. I mean, it's got to be appropriate, it's got to be up to date, it's got to be currently tested and stuff like the other. Your gloves should be tested every 6 months. If you have a hot stick, it should be tested like every 2 years. If you have a mat, I think it's about every 2 years as well. So all that stuff needs to be sent out to a laboratory that actually does dielectric testing, almost like you saw with those, they actually put like those 23,000 volts across it, something like the other, one clip on one side, one clip on the other, to make sure that it doesn't track, that it doesn't try to, you know, conduct or anything like the other, to make sure that it actually does insulate you from any kind of potential stuff like that. So you got to make sure that the equipment is rated for the proper voltage and stuff like that. And that's the important thing, guys, that if you go out to some piece of equipment and you don't know what the potential is there, and you're not dressed for it, you're just asking for trouble. I'm just telling you that right now, right off the top of the bat. You're putting yourself in a situation or in a position to where you could end up hurting or killing yourself. And you already saw the pictures of the damage. What I showed you was low voltage and even high voltage damage done right there to that equipment. So the potential is there, and it can happen to you in the heart of, you know, the drop of a hat and everything. So when you least expect it, because it's something that goes wrong in the equipment or something like that. And like I said before, yeah, it's not a matter of if it can go wrong. No, it's a matter of when it's going to go wrong. And it's waiting, you know, in the pyramid of access, I mean, of accidents that they've calculated, stuff like the other, You know, we talk about us being always at the bottom run, trying to, the point of that triangle where we're at the lowest point, instead of right at that one peak where, you know, all of these, what do you want to call it, factors or variables that come to the crest where it's, okay, that is the correct time for the accident to occur and everything else. It's like that program that's on TV, that 60 Seconds to Disaster. All these variables have been accumulating right to the point and everything else. Everything has gone wrong. All these factors, a pilot error, then the metal fatigue, this, that, or the other, as far as an aircraft, something like the other. And then all of a sudden there's this small turbulence, and then all it took was that force to be able to cause that plane to dip down and everything else. Not because the plane dipped down, the stress on this, something like that, the wing falls off. When the wing falls off, it knocks the engine this way or something like the other, and it causes the plane to crash. Once the plane starts to crash and everything else, it runs into a building and kills all these other people and stuff like that, the other. So it's all of these little factors that came into play that one day and everything else. And it's just that incident just waiting to happen, but it's a culmination of things that go wrong. And when you don't have your proper PPE, when you don't know what the potential is, or you don't have an arc flash analysis that's been made or something like that that tells you, if you haven't attended NFPA 70E to make you understand how you can do those calculations yourself and stuff like that, then you're placing yourself in the position of that danger, that potential. And that's what I'm trying to stress here more than anything else. So if you get called out and they tell you, go out there and reset this equipment or something like that, the other, let's say for this you have to open up. So you're opening up that equipment, you need to know exactly what you're getting yourself into. And for you to go in there and just pull a lever or stick your head in there and you know, yank it open without making sure that the load has been cleared and stuff like that or the other, you know, that's the wrong thing to do. I mean, it's not a good practice, let's put it that way. So I can't stress it enough, the safety aspect of this. You guys need to know the potentials that are there and the steps that are required for you to be able to connect or energize this equipment the proper way and de-energize it in the same safe fashion and everything else. There it is, de-energizing prior to working on any piece of equipment and replacing all the covers. We talked about as far as the integrity of the covers as well, you know, not only the covers but the equipment, the external, all the panels and stuff like that require our low voltage panels. It's a common hardware. It's Q20 slotted head that you can get from Fastenal, and varying lengths and everything else. So it's a common standard that you know you can go in there and ask them for self-tapping Q20s. They'll know exactly what you're talking about. They come up. They'll say, well, okay, what size do you want them? You want them 1 inch, 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches, or 2 to 3 inches, however long. And that's a standard deal that you can see in all this. Try to keep your hardware always in the same type, instead of having one that's got different, even though it's a Q20 as far as the thread is concerned, but then you have a head that's 9/16, so you have one that's 7/8 or something like this. The other. Keep the same
uniform.
Yes, sir. That way you don't have 5 or 6 different tools laying around. You just have one that you require for it and everything else, and plus it makes it so much easier when you do have to replace it, that you know you have the same standard more than else. Okay, these are some of the features of this equipment and stuff like this. 11 gauge steel. Backup light assembly. Okay, here's that little contactor that you were talking about. It's actually like a litit truck, and it shows you the coil and stuff like that. So this little actually will roll out on rails once you open that medium voltage compartment, and be able to pull that out. So without that being in there, you can close that switch, but you're never going to make it to your load because you've pulled the contactors out of the contacts, period. See, there it is. There's a little trolley right there, and we saw it a while ago, all extended there. There's now it's there. But here's when this actual handle will come down, and that's it right there. So if you lift that handle up, that's the actual rail that it will pull out, and then you can lift it up from there. And it's got more or less like a little handle there as well. You lift it right off of that deal, and with the little wheels, you just move that contact out of the way. There it is. So you can troubleshoot this, close that back up again, lock it up and everything else, and troubleshoot the contact and find out if it didn't close or the contactor didn't pick up. You can apply control voltage, just because you got a voltage control transformer on there and stuff like this, you can do that external out of it instead of, you know, trying to do something in here and find out if the problem is here or something like that or the other, right? Versus trying to do this with the power energized and stuff like that or the other. So there's ways of doing this safely and everything else. That's that isolating means that we were talking about a little while ago. Arc resistant and flame retardant housing. And in the open position, the IM is grounded. The IM is a non-load brake device. Okay? That means you need to make sure that downstream there's no load on it. So here again, we're talking about, you know, making sure that no load is on it. Mechanical electrical interlocks prevent opening or closing the IM with the contactor closed. Ooh, that's a misspelling. But essentially what it's saying is you cannot open or close this with the contactor being energized. Okay? So the contactor, if the contactor is energized, it's not going to allow this to open or close. So the contactor has to be de-energized before you can open or close this. So that's why if the contactor is de-energized, in essence it's just like a regular a contactor that has a coil. The coil energizes the contactor that closes the actual contacts. Okay, so essentially what this isolating means is more or less like the coil the contact coil has to be de-energized before you're able to open this isolating means, which is just a switch, in other words, in line with those contactor coil or the contacts themselves. So if you can just imagine this being a switch, and then you got coils or contacts in series with it. So the contacts would energize or de-energize. It has to be open, so it's a non-load, and that's how it comes into play. You know, does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's a lot easier when you see it that way. That you say, okay, it's a, you know, just a one-line diagram. That isolating means it's going to be like a switch, and then you have your contactor there as far as your contacts. So without this, if it's closed, you cannot open or close this right there. So with the contactor being closed, there's no way. Contactor's got to be open or drop, de-energized. So now you're able to open or close that isolating means. It's that simple. I know sometimes it can get confusing when you're looking at it and you're wondering, well, you know, how can that be? More or less, that's your one line will show that. Okay? And here it shows you that the blades, that isolating means is grounded.